those idiots' guidebooks, so we'll see how it goes. Page 1. Anyway, so, as the father of bride, tradition dictates that I start this part of proceedings. Slightly as a warm-up act for the two headliners who are sitting here, who I'm sure you'll applaud later. With much guidance from sources as diverse as the internet, which is very helpful, much better than since I was not a bride, a groom, when I actually got a book from Austin Reed, which was absolutely useless. Anyway, I've had the internet, and I've also had the village shop, which in this village is very useful. And the main one for the village shop was keep it short. So Hugh, thank you very much for that one. I'll try. So I would like to welcome you on behalf of my wife Liz, and myself, Jack's parents Melanie and Martin. It's fantastic to see so many friends and family here to celebrate with Jack and Laura on their big day. People have travelled from great distances like Canada, so Simon and family, thank you very much. And there's a few reprobates in the village who have actually got here and will stagger back later. So thank you to you all. Great occasions like this don't just happen, so it would be remiss of me not to thank everyone involved. We'll start with Laura. Oh no, actually we'll start with Jack. Jack, thank you very much for asking Laura, or vice versa. And Laura for somehow persuading us to have a little small wedding reception in the garden. And then there's my wife Liz, for being sort of creating loads and loads of lists and chipping us all to get on with our tasks. But actually doing much of the work, so thank you very much. Of which, as you may have noticed, when I turned up in the van, not van, charabanc, and it did have trouble getting up the hill with us all, there were 5. So luckily we were all very light. So I'd like to thank them all for looking after Laura, and I'm sure you'll agree that she looked stunning. It did take a little while, and we did have to keep saying, time to go, time to go. And Laura was still in her gym jams, probably about half an hour before. I'd also particularly like to thank Laura's sister Frances for resisting the temptation to do something she did on our last big family occasion when we were at St Giles. It was a long time ago, it was baptism. It was Matthew's baptism, and Frances decided to give Laura a haircut.
It was short.
Nail scissors.
Like,
it was about 2
scalp.
days before, and she ran little tram lines down. It's quite okay if you want to be Mohican, but we didn't really. She had lovely curly hair, and suddenly it was very short. So we had to go to the hairdresser, have the whole lot sort of. Yeah. But luckily, not today.
Can still be done.
Good. Okay. I'd like to thank Ollie, and I did see a lovely photo of him aged 3 the other night. You know, all the sort of mother and toddler group stuff. I'm sorry to say, actually, after all the harvest, you're a little bit wider, but I'd like to thank Karen Weekly and all her team for keeping us fed and watered so well. I don't know if you've seen around the grounds, but we've got some amazing pots, and Peggy Body, Dave Body, up the road, has been nurturing and singing to these and snipping for months, and so they are fantastic. I would have killed the whole lot if I'd even looked at them, but she's done brilliantly. And then there's loads of other people, but you know who you are. I can't list them all out, but thank you all. So then we come to Laura. Oh dear. And I'm sure Laura will be relieved that I'm not going to dish out any dirt on her, because actually she's got years of practice of dishing it out herself, and I get it back with interest. What I would like to say is it's been a joy to see her and her siblings grow up in such a lovely, friendly environment as Horsted Canes. We've loved being here, and it's been fantastic. Like many fathers in this situation, I can scarcely believe how our little curly-haired blonde scallywag has grown up to the beautiful bride that I gave away earlier. I was very proud. After 7 years, I think it's 7 years, Jack, isn't it? 6 and a half. Sorry. It's not the 7 years. He should be well aware of his new bride's skills and foibles, of which there are a few, but in case he has not noticed, she can be quite determined. My favourite early memory of this was holidaying Spain. I'm sure anyone who's a parent will know how you try to get your kids to learn to swim. Frances had actually thrown off her, whatever it is, swimming aid. Laura was having absolutely none of it. Nothing would persuade her until she realised that her younger brother had actually thrown the lot off, jumped in, was half drowning and going around. In she went. So, Jack, if you ever want Laura to do anything, don't tell her, but find out some psychological devious way. Okay. And so on to Jack. Despite the Emersons and Huffs living with, I suppose, what should be called a cricket ball throw of each other, I suspect Jack was better known to Matthew as a cricketer from a rival club, and not on Laura's radar as boyfriend material until they bumped into each other at the local pub, which the vicar did slightly take my sort of thing out of this, but we spent a little while trying to persuade Laura that she needed to earn some money. I used to play hockey with the publican down at the sloop, and she did take it up and actually spent a lot of time down there after that. And up turns Jack. Laura and her friend Simon, I believe, both had their heads turned by this strapping lad. Laura appears to have won. And the rest, as they say, is history. So Liz and I are delighted to welcome Jack as part of our family, as I'm sure Martin and Melanie are delighted to welcome Laura into the Emmerson family. And father-brother family. I read that it is customary for the father of the bride to offer some advice to the happy couple. This I feel a bit nervous about, because I've never really, with so many women in my household, been asked for my opinion about anything. But I would say, remember both of you, that you had no choice over us as parents, and I'm sure, vice versa, but you've chosen each other. And you're number one, you're the new team. So, go for it. You might want advice out of us, but you might go with Jack's and vice versa. We'll sort it out yourselves. But, Laura, when you want something from Jack, ask for it. Don't forget he's a man, and hints don't work. And Jack, if Laura asks you to do something, she's actually telling you to do it, and she's telling you to do it now. So I think that's quite enough for me. I have permission from the bride now to start more seriously on the harvest. So ladies and gentlemen, we have a beautiful bride. We have a handsome groom. Please raise your glasses and toast to the new Mr. and Mrs Emmerson, Jack and Laura.
Careful, you're in it.
Ignore me if you choose. I think Andrew's taken an awful lot of what I wanted to say, and I think it would certainly be remiss of me not to just reiterate those thanks, certainly to Andrew and Liz, because this just wouldn't have happened without you two. The support that we've had from you guys over the past 6.5 years, the whirlwind romance that it's been, has just been fantastic. And there's a few things, but I think, just as I say, the whole thing wouldn't have happened. We've certainly had our moments, I think, over the past year, discussions about things, but I'm sure you'd agree, it's gone brilliantly. It's a fantastic setting. I think to describe this as a garden is underselling it quite significantly. It's fantastic, and it's just been the perfect setting, so thank you for that. It's been brilliant. I must thank Laura very briefly here, because obviously the tradition is that the groom asks the father's permission to marry her daughter. I was told not to do that. No uncertain terms was that to happen. So thank you, Andrew, for allowing it anyway. While we're on that, the Huff family, John Allison, there's too many aunts and uncles, I'm afraid, to name. But again, you've been fantastic welcoming into your family, and meals and things here and elsewhere, and that's been great. So thank you for that. It's felt really welcome. I must mention these two here when I'm at it. So Mum and Dad, Martin and Melanie. There was one story I thought that probably illustrated their support for me the best, and this was, I know they say that parents should probably never lie to their children about big things, maybe sort of white lies just to keep them going. I was under the impression for about 20 3 or 4 years of my life that I was asked to leave the playgroup that I think me and Laura actually first met at, because I was something of a prodigy. And that they simply were not providing for my needs. What had actually happened was I had taken a knife into nursery. Hidden up a tree and refused to come down. So I think that's perhaps a lesson for us in terms of choosing when to be honest and when not. Thank you for that. While we're here, I think we've got some presents for Liz and for Melanie somewhere. So yeah, that's right. Try to round of applause as well. Right, the bridesmaids. I know we've talked about the bridesmaids, but they do look absolutely fantastic. I think just the support that you're giving to Laura, Fran, by all accounts, the hen do was fantastic. I think there was enough chocolate there to sink
Titanic.
But it was brilliant. Alice and Ailey, again, fantastic friends to Laura throughout the time. My sisters, difficult to know where to start necessarily, but you've really piled into the whole thing. You got stuck in. You look fantastic. It's great stuff. They did ask me earlier just if any of the sort of single men under 30 could raise their hand. Josh, you don't count it. I think from the look of what was going on out there, they've actually done the job for me. But if you could raise your glasses, please, to the bridesmaids. Now, I suppose not equal, but parallel to the bridesmaids is the best man. And it has been for, as we said, probably 26, something like that, years. We've been knocking around. I've got grown up together here, and I'm not sure that's entirely appropriate. The years have passed and we've been together, so I suppose so. And again, I've written down a couple of stories here, but they've all been crossed out, so I will leave him to try and be humorous later. He has been a fantastic aid to me over the past year. He's bowled at me in the garden since we were 7, so I suppose there's some credit there as well to be taken. And there is hopefully a present somewhere for him. Brings me on to kind of other thank yous, and there was one big one actually when I sat down to think about this, and I thought this day would not have happened without this individual. And he's getting on a bit now, he's 98, but he was there when it all started, and he was probably the reason that it all began. So I'd like to thank Jake the dog. I know that's slightly conventional, but as some of you know, our first date was a dog walk. Without the dog, there's a lack of purpose to that. And it just sounds like I'm taking Laura into the woods. So Jake the dog, he certainly won't hear us from here, because he wouldn't hear me from the phone. He was in there. The ushers, you're dotted around, but you've been a help, certainly some more than others. The two that turned up with about 20 minutes to go, thank you for coming. But yeah, no, in different ways, you've done a great deal. Some people ask me why I picked so many. I was under the impression there was time for probably a game of cricket at some point, so I've picked an 11 that I thought would take on the rest of the party. Perhaps that won't happen. Everyone that helped with the flowers look fantastic, don't they? That was a great deal at half price, so thank you for those people. Again, the catering was fantastic, the food was brilliant, people were setting up. Right. The main event, the reason we are all here, whatever right now. First of all, how stunning, even in a cardigan. I think he alluded to it in the service about, he asked us why we were going to get married. And I was struck what to say there, really, because I thought it was pretty obvious. And I ended up saying something about tax breaks, which he didn't appreciate. But it just seemed obvious. I think there was just no other thing for us to do. It was just, you know, what we wanted to do, what we needed to do, and it was just the thing for us to do. I think I've written some words down to describe Laura. I'm not sure what order they go in, but she is by far and away the most, I don't know where to start here. Stubborn's not the right. She challenges me in loads of different ways. Some fantastic, some possibly less so at times, but she's brilliant. She has her own mind. She's incredibly loyal to her friends. She's incredibly caring and kind, and really goes a little bit out of her way to look after people and things like that. And obviously there's a few people here who had a bit of a tough time recently, and she's done more than she needed to. I've probably not been that pleased about waking up at 5 AM every other morning for the last month, but I think it's probably worth it to get to here. So I think we'll stop there. But a toast to Laura. Right. Ollie has a habit when he talks and stands up for a period of time of blacking out. That genuinely could happen. So I think the ushers know in which order they're to take things up. Just one thing perhaps to say about Ollie before we move on. He's an incredibly enthusiastic man. And when he sent his measurements through for the suit that we were buying him, enthusiastic was certainly a word that you could describe that. And he's worked really hard actually to make them a reality. There was probably a point, perhaps 2 or 3 months ago, that I think he realised enough was enough. We'd gone for a few beers in Brighton, and we were going into this bar, and there were the 2 bouncers that you'd expect on the door. And there was this other woman there, and I think she was probably unofficial, was probably the best way to describe her. She probably had more inside the bar than outside, and was quite enthusiastic herself. And as the members of the party went through, she did the sort of spot check, have you got a banana in there, and all this sort of thing. And it came to Ollie. And Ollie went, right, come on then. And she just went, no, you're okay.
Thank you, Jack, for that very kind introduction. Good afternoon, one and all. At this point I was going to introduce myself, but Jack's done a lovely job for me, so I'll just move things on. I am known to be many things. A public speaker, however, isn't one of them, so I shall keep this relatively short and as sweet as I possibly can. My job today is really very simple. Make sure Jack gets to the church okay, which we did. Hold him to the rings, if that went okay. And stand around to make Jack a little bit thin on the wedding photograph, which we managed. And now to give the speech afterwards. It was a great honour, Jack, to be asked to be your best man, but also a bit of a surprise. Yes, I was surprised to be asked by you, but I was a lot more surprised that Laura said yes when you asked her. First of all, on behalf of the bridesmaids, I'd like to respond to your kind words. I think I can't add to that. They look fantastic today, and nearly the main event, but luckily haven't promised to outside Laura. I will warn you, Jack, complimenting them, that is the last time you can compliment another woman. I'd like to thank Liz and Andrew again for hosting this, which has been fantastic, and Martin and Melanie for the support you've given me as well. I think we can both agree the bride and groom were pretty superb. I'm now supposed to stand here and sing the groom's praises and tell you about his good points. Unfortunately I can't sing, and I'm not going to stand here and lie to you all. I've had the good pleasure now to know Jack for many years. We were at preschool together where he chased me up a tree with a knife. We went to primary school, secondary school school, and we've also played a considerable amount of cricket together in our time. We both share a common love of sport. Jack is a fine sportsman, he's a solid cricketer, and apparently a half-decent rugby player. Whilst I've never played rugby alongside you, as I said, I do know your cricket pretty well, and you played for Sussex at a junior level really fun well. I actually ran into one of your old coaches the other day, and he told me there were just 3 reasons why you never made it as a pro. Unfortunately, it was your batting, your bowling. I'm not saying he's sport obsessed, but when he rang me to talk about the wedding, he was on the phone for 10 minutes. The first 9.5 minutes of that was spent talking about your new bat you bought. The remaining 30 seconds about the wedding today. As I'm sure many of you know, Jack is a teacher. I was delighted to see so many of his colleagues here today, especially as I know, July and August is a busy time for you at the moment. Actually, his job has been the only thing that's ever really pushed our friendship to the limits. When you're stuck in London in an office with no air conditioning, or the trains are late and you're not getting home, it's at this point you'll get a picture message from Jack of him having ice cream on the beach, or a cold pint in a beer garden, and that's really pushed our friendship to the limits. It's particularly appropriate though we've been dressed in the same outfit today, because for many years we have done. Jack was a fine cub. Walking there with his hand on my supportive hand on my shoulder. But we've been known for 20 years before that. This is the picture which was alluded to. I wasn't going to show this picture, but I had to just see how well Martin had aged. Yet again, Jack, though, unfortunately on this occasion, I've pulled off the outfit a little bit better than you. People have often asked me in these last few weeks, did you ever know that Jack and Laura will get married together? Well, I can do more than that. I can pinpoint the exact moment that I knew Jack was head over heels in love with Laura, and no one else would do. It was about 7 years ago now, I guess. A bitterly cold February evening. The wind was flying in, there was blizzard in the air, it was freezing cold. I got a phone call from Jack. Now, I knew Jack had been working down at the sloop, and all I'd heard about is this Laura behind the bar, Laura this, Laura that. Will you come down and see Laura? I want an excuse to go down to the pub and talk to her. I said, look, it's 8 o'clock in the evening, it's a horrible night, will you not keen? There was snow in the air. The sloop also is about 2 miles up to the village. It's not close in the village, it's sort of way up the village. And with one sentence, he said something to me he'd never said before, which made me so sure he was sure about marrying Laura. He said, Ollie, if you come with me, I'll buy you a drink. That's never happened since. So I got the lift down there, we headed down there. He was really excited, really nervous. Our lift drove off, and into the pub we went. The Lord'd seen the forecast and had gone home early. I never got my drink. I was faced with a 2-mile walk back through the night in the snow. But don't think that Jack's all mean and tight. He's a very kind man. And I remember the first night he was going to stay here, he was incredibly nervous. As he would be. I'm sure you can remember the first time you stayed over at your partner's houses. You're very nervous, you're tense. So he said, Ollie, will you come for a drink down the road? Naturally, at this stage I was still dying. We walked into the social club in the village, and it was 80th birthday going on. And Jack's a kind man, went over to the gentleman and wished him a happy birthday. And there was a toast, 18 bottles of Carver opened on the bar. Toast was raised, and with that, the party disintegrated, leaving this poor man on his own on his 80th birthday, with 12 bottles of Carver unfinished. Now Jack could have gone to Laws at that stage, he could have gone home. He's a kind man, he didn't want to see his whole man on his own. So despite being due at Laws at 9 o'clock, we left the social club at 12, having consumed the Carver. I went home. Now at this point I'm not quite sure what happened, but I do know that Laura did a full load of washing at 2 o'clock in the morning, Jack's first night staying over. Which actually brings me me on quite nicely to you, Laura. A lot of time, best men stand up and they say, oh, well, I lost a friend to this new wife. But actually, it's just two of my friends joining together. We've had a very great friendship. Your kindness and especially your understanding has always been appreciated. You are bright, you're charming, you're funny, and today you look radiant and really stolen the show. But most of all, you are living proof that opposites attract. As I said with Jack, I've done many things with him, including junior coaching. I'm sure we'll all be pleased to know he is a natural with children. So that's good news for the future. He's at ease with anyone. He's happy talking to old friends as he is complete strangers. With Jack, he always gives the impression of strangers as a friend he hasn't met yet. They are wonderful as a couple. I can't imagine two people more suitable to be married together. It's been a great honour to be here today. Jack, although I'm not married myself, I will give you some advice. I spent 26 years giving you advice on things I know nothing about, and I'm not going to stop today. People always say to me, do you think Jack will wear the trousers in that relationship? I say, yes, Jack will wear the trousers. Laura will choose them, but Jack will. I do have some words of advice from you in the form of an old poem, and this seemed particularly appropriate. To keep a marriage brimming, with love in the loving cup, when you are wrong, admit it. When you're right, shut up. And I went to both my parents and said, what makes marriage work? Which is unfortunate, they've both been divorced as well. My father said, tell him to be clever and not wise. I said, what do you mean? He said, well, if you're clever, you'll always have the last word. But if you're wise, you'll never use it. When you rang me and asked me to be your best man, and say you told me you're getting married, I was half up a mountain in Poland. And you opened with the lines, mate, I've done something very stupid. And I'll reassure you, marrying Laura is probably the most sensible thing you've ever done in your life. May you both live as long as you want, and never want for as long as you live. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. and Mrs Emmerson, Jack and Laura.
Jack, it's like preschool all over again.
That's too flavour.
Been a long day, baby. Things ain't been going my way, but now I need you here to clear my mind. Oh, what a time, baby. The way you move me is crazy. It's like you see right through me, make it easier. Believe me, you don't even have to try. Oh, oh, oh. You are the best thing. You are coming to mind. Come on. You are the best thing. We come